You're listening to In the Zone with Ian Robb and Dancin Rodda, the podcast where riders, athletes, and coaches unlock the mindset it takes to perform under pressure and recover like a pro. Today's episode brings you something a little different but deeply powerful, because no matter what sport you play, whether it's in the ring, on the field, or center court, the mental game is everything. Focus, resilience, and the ability to stay calm when the pressure hits. Those traits are universal. Our guest today, he knows that pressure. He's lived it, and he's coached through it. Guy Fritz is a legendary tennis coach and the father of top 10 ATP player Taylor Fritz. From age 2 to 18, he built a champion from the ground up, shaping not just technique, but mental strength, discipline, and composure on the world's biggest stages. So why should equestrians care? Because this is a conversation about how to coach the zone, recover from mistakes, and train the mind to be just as sharp as the body. Get ready to ride into a new level of focus, clarity, and championship mentality. This is In the Zone.
Hey, Pete. Today we have someone who is a friend of mine. His name is Guy Fritz. He's the father of Taylor Fritz, who's in Wimbledon right now in the semifinals for the first time. And Guy was a big tennis coach out there in San Diego area when I first moved there. I lived out there for about 28 years. I got to tell you, he's one of the few people that I respected in the field. And today we have him on our show. So I'm excited.
I'm excited.
All right. So let's get started. Okay. Welcome back to In the Zone, the podcast where we explore what it takes to reach your potential, recover with purpose, and perform under pressure. I'm Ian Robb.
And I'm Dancin Rodda. And today's guest is not just a coach. He's a builder of champions, a sharper of mindsets, and father of trained one of the top tennis players in the world.
We're talking about Guy Fritz, father and first coach of Taylor Fritz, who climbed from a toddler with a racket to the top 10 ATP force. Guy coached Taylor from age 2 to 18, molding his technique, mental game, and competitive fire from the inside out.
But this isn't just a tennis story. It's a deep dive into what it takes to raise, coach, and guide a world-class athlete while walking the line between father and mentor.
Guy's legacy includes coaching 2 top-tier players from the ground up, developing one of the cleanest strokes in the game, showing what's possible from long-term vision and real discipline collide.
We get into it all: pressure, patience, persisting, and how it helped athletes find and return to the zone when everything's on the line.
So whether you're a coach, a parent, or someone trying to master their own game, this one's for you. Let's get in the zone with the legendary Guy Fritz. Guy, how are you doing today?
Great, Rob. How you doing?
Doing great.
Good to
I
see
bet you
both
never
you
had
guys.
an
Nice
intro
to
like
meet
that
you.
before, have you?
Not really. That's pretty good.
All right. Well, we're going to have some fun here, guys. And we're honored to have you here. We're excited. You know, Taylor, gosh, he's in the semifinals of Wimbledon. He's going to be starting to play tomorrow. So I'm so happy and lucky to have you.
Actually, he plays on Friday. He got 2 days off. The semifinals will be Friday.
There you go. I get corrected again. He likes to correct me all the time when I lived in San Diego. So that's good. That's not so bad. So he gets 2 days off. I wonder if he's going to eat some strawberries and cream or have some fun. I think he's just going to eat Chipotles. What do you think?
Well, that is one of his main sponsors, and he's been eating it since he was 7, 8 years old. So he really is. He really does like it. I like it too.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's get started, guys. We're gonna start from the beginning. We're gonna start at 2 years old when you were coaching Taylor from the age. And I'm gonna ask you, what did coaching Taylor from age 2 really look like? And how do you balance technique, discipline, and letting a kid fall in love with the game?
Well, you just start with little things. You try to get them interested in the movement of the ball, hitting the ball. And of course, when you're 2 years old, you really can't hold the racket. So I had him use a two-handed forehand, and I modeled it after the great Pancho Segura, who I learned a lot of my tennis from. So you start there, and you go out and you toss a few balls, and kids like to hit balls. He would. I'm sure you saw him. He'd go out and hit golf balls, and then after that, he wanted to hit baseballs. And by then, it's time to get lunch and take a nap. And then he wanted to do it all again.
Very good. So navigating being dad and coach, tell us the ups and downs and emotional swings that happen between being dad and then being also coach.
Well, that's a very extensive question, and it's a very difficult one to answer because you're trying to be his father, but you know what it takes to become a great player. And that's all I had in my mind, was to see how good I could make Taylor. And so there was a fine line between trying to push him a little bit, trying to get him to always practice on a consistent basis. And that brought up some frictions, some backlash. So it's very difficult. I did have my wife, who was a top 10 player, and she hit with him and worked with him up till he was about 12. Then she got frustrated and gave up. But it was all about trying to have, if you could have them have some amount of fun where they got their other friends around them and things like that, then it becomes a lot easier. When Taylor first started playing tournaments at 8 years old, he was down at the Barnes Center in San Diego, where they held most of the junior tournaments. And he really looked forward to going down there on the weekends because he was going to see his friends. Not so much that, oh, I've got a tennis tournament to play. He knew he was going to be around his friends and go play ping pong and go chase lizards and do the things that 8-year-olds do. So it was something that you just had to work out all the time. And if he got a little tired of tennis, he played every other sport. That was another thing that I believe in, is developing the left brain, right brain. So that's how we worked it. There's no set rules when you raise them. Everybody's different. Everybody develops at different stages of their life. Some get their growth early, some get it later. So it was just a little bit of trial and error, and reaching back and taking some of what I learned growing up and coaching other people.
I'm glad you said that, because there's so many times you hear these top athletes say that you can diversify your sports, and that makes you a better athlete at the sport you finally focus on, where so many fathers, coaches go, no, you can only play football, you can only do this, because we just want to hone these skills, and you miss out on so much. So that's great.
Yeah, I think that's the way you brought it up is exactly right. When you're working on basketball, in other words, I'll give you a good example. You give me a young kid that's played soccer for 3 or 4 years, I can make him into a tennis player right away, because the signal goes to their feet, and they get the movement down, and the movement is a large part of the game. So I really always believed in. I played all the sports. And I wouldn't have minded if he would have been a baseball player. He was a really good baseball player. He played good basketball, but he also played lacrosse and football. I did draw the line at him playing high school football. I did not want him playing tackle football. I just thought too many things could go wrong. So I did have a little influence in some of the sports.
That's what happened to me. I played high school football, and I was going to play college football, and look what I turned out to be, Guy.
I think I heard that story.
Hey, listen, I want to talk a little bit more about getting the mechanics of working with Taylor and the long-term development mindset that you had for him, because you said that Taylor developed one of the cleanest techniques in tennis. What principles or drills helped build that clarity early in him, and how did you keep it going under pressure for him?
Well, I had a really great understanding of the serve, because I was a baseball pitcher and I played professional tennis. So I had that part down. I modeled his serve a little bit after what I thought was the greatest motion. There was 2 guys, Pancho Gonzalez and Pete Sampras. So I modeled the serve after that. The forehand, I took a little bit from Andre Agassi, and because I realized right away the inside in, the inside out forehand was the way of the future. I used to play against Jimmy Arias, and he had that great inside out, inside in, semi-Western grip. And I actually played with that the first 3 or 4 years of my career. I wish I would have stayed with it. But I was always a believer in technique and good strokes. So we always emphasized that and worked on it and always tweaking it, always trying to get better.
So, Guy, I always say to my students that mastery is one line when you get, no matter where you start, tennis, horsemanship, golf, whatever it is, the final line, we talk about all the same things. So a lot of equestrians are listening to this, and I want them to get something out of it because I always teach focus. So when do you start switching? We need to get more focused versus form, or how do you balance those together?
Well, I try to right from a very early age to have contests. How many balls can you hit in a row? How many balls can you go cross court? And then to go to the next level, how many can you go cross court and then change line so you can control the ball? Hitting down the backboard was huge. We had ball machines, and when he was 2 years old, he used to hit on the ball machine because he liked to hit it. When it hit it, the ball machine, it made a nice sound. And he was so young that he couldn't even pronounce the name machine. He'd say, "Daddy, I hit the sheen, I hit the sheen." And that excited him. So you had to find things that were a little bit goal oriented, so their mind would work on that. And then as they got older, we would go over how many unforced errors you had, how many times did you let up, how many times did your mind wander, and you have to work on that muscle between your ears, just like you go out and try to do your push-ups and sit-ups and chin-ups and all that other stuff. And the focus at the higher stages is really the difference between the very top players and the next level down.
And I love what you're saying because that's just about technique. How well are you riding? You got to put that discipline in, but you still have to be mentally and physically focusing where you're going to help with the horse.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
great.
So what's something that you taught Taylor to handle that pressure? Because he's playing against the highest and the brightest lights right now, and playing in Wimbledon, okay, is one of the
I'm not
biggest
allowed to say that word.
stages in the world. That's because he says it with a T, Guy, as you know. So we won't let him do that to us.
Well, listen, we're gonna give him a pass because he's got a nice cowboy shirt, a nice little cowboy hat, and we don't expect him, to be able to say Wimbledon.
But what techniques? How did you help him to understand how to handle that type of pressure?
Well, I was always about trying to take the ball early, take it on the rise so you didn't have to go back. I was about playing offense, especially with a guy like Taylor, because at 6'5", and the way he's built just like I am, I wasn't the fastest guy on the court. So if you're not the quickest guy on the court, then you better have a big serve and some big weapons to overcome that. So that was always in my mind when I coached Taylor, when I developed Coco Vandeweghe, that they were going to have weapons. And I always believed in continuous motion and taking that ball early. That's what I always tried to stress.
Pete, that when he worked with Coco was a Junior U.S. Open title winner in 2008, and Taylor was it in 2015 when he was the U.S. Open title. And a year later, Guy was honored with the U.S. Olympic Development Coach of the Year award for his dedication to coaching youth tennis. And I got to tell you, that's a big award, my friend.
I appreciate that. I don't think they wanted to give it to me because I went against the the teachings a little bit of the USTA, even though they did help Taylor. And but no, I was very happy to receive that. They had to give it to me because I had two. Nobody had developed two players. Coco went on to be a semifinalist at Wimbledon. She won the U.S. Open doubles. She was top 10 in the world. I thought she could have done a lot better. Her mother held her back in a lot of aspects, but she's doing well now. She's an announcer. I see her at Wimbledon, and she always puts in a good word for me. So I'm glad that things have worked out for her.
Yeah, she's looking great on TV. I mean, she's looking quite happy and great.
And she's doing a good job.
Yeah.
So when I teach, I talk about get excited about your mistakes because, in my opinion, you learn more from your mistakes than your successes. So when
that's a very good point. A very good point right there. Anytime Taylor lost in a tournament,
right?
He actually, I have a saying which is not unique, or a lot of people have said it, but if you don't win, you must learn. You can't go through tournaments or go to do what you're doing and make these mistakes and keep making them again. If you don't understand why you're winning and losing, you're just not going to get to the level that you want to be at. So that's a great point. Learning from those mistakes. Taylor always had a better practice the week after he had a bad loss or a tough loss, and because we always try to figure out why. And he was more open to learning then, versus when you're winning, you keep relying on that big serve, that big forehand, and you don't develop all of your game. So I'm sure it's a little bit like that in the horse business. And I appreciate you bringing that up. That's a great point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as a coach, and when I coach a little bit, I'm just curious, did you have any like non-negotiables when you were working with athletes, when you were working with the players that they must be doing?
Another good question. Yeah, if I didn't see the effort, the enthusiasm and the effort, then luckily I was in a position where I really did need the money, and I could just tell them to find another coach. If the effort's not there, if the enthusiasm isn't there, if they don't wake up in the morning wanting to get on that court, they're never gonna. It has to come from within. You can help that, but that was one technique. If I didn't see that, all the rest didn't make any difference.
What's the number one thing that takes young players out of the zone? And how do you teach them to recover it and fix it?
Do you mean out of the zone? You mean like they're playing really well, and what takes them out of that?
Correct.
First of all, the zone is very hard to get into, and it's distractions. It's number one. Number two, it's getting upset, yelling, raising your blood pressure. That's one thing that I think Taylor does really well. He keeps a very even keel. So I would say those are the three main factors that, getting a little frustrated with yourself, getting upset, will get you out of the moment right away. Some bad luck, a let court. Those are all excuses to lose,
So reset, yeah. Every point is a reset.
Well, not every point, but if something distracting comes along, like at Wimbledon yesterday, they were in a rally, and then all of a sudden the automatic line thing went off and called the ball out during a rally. It was just a malfunction. So I've seen little things like that when people are a little too high strung, a little hyper, and they don't know how to relax. I think things like that just throw them right off their game. And it happened to Taylor yesterday. He won the first two sets easily. He was playing great. All of a sudden, he was down 5-love in the third set. And, I don't know. Somebody said, well, the wind started, or is this or is that? But to go off from playing great to all the way down to a very low level is
And
would you
coach him to try to win that set, or would you say, hey, give up that set and start over?
No, I would never tell him to give into a set because he's down 5-love. He's got to find some way to try to find his rhythm and his timing and get it back.
Okay.
So he did hold serve for 5-1, and the guy won the set 6-1, but then he started out and lost the first 2 games in the 4th set. So yeah, I don't believe in giving up games when you're still trying to get your rhythm and your timing back, because that's a very delicate thing, and that's what happened yesterday.
You know, Guy, when I played in high school, especially in college, I was a street player. I had a huge lefty serve. So I'd get up like 3-love or 4-love, and then I started looking around to see who's watching me, what girls are watching me. And so then all of a sudden it'd be a 4-love. I'm down 4 games again. Then I focus back into it and do it. How would you coach me on that?
I'd probably try to get another sport, but that's just me. But what you described is very common, is that especially when they get ahead, you start thinking about winning. And it's the old cliche, you got to stay in the moment, whether you're a golfer or whatever. I'm sure it's the same thing with horses. You can't make mistakes. You got to stay in the moment. You can't think about something happened 2 minutes ago or two weeks ago, and you can't get ahead thinking about winning. So, that used to happen to me when I was younger. That's something you have to work on, like any other thing. It takes a long time. A lot of people don't get it. That's why they don't make the next level.
Exactly. And the other thing I'm seeing that's a disruptor is when kids, and even on the horse world too, they start looking at their phones, Guy, as they're sitting down and not paying attention to what's going on, unless they have something written as in what they should be doing during that match or something like that. I'm now seeing players when they get off, between points, sometimes put a headset on, listen to music, try and stay focused on that or what's going on. Are you seeing that more and more?
Oh boy, if I could have done it, I would have taken Taylor's phone away, TV away. He became a gamer. That really hurt his tennis. Nowadays, the more dad is coming out about how it rewires your brain. I can't tell you how many times I used to go into his bedroom. He'd be asleep with a hot computer on his chest. I mean, it used to drive me crazy. The phones and the iPads and all that stuff, they're the worst thing that ever happened to sports, believe me.
Yeah.
So now that you're on the sidelines, not being the main coach, how do you deal with watching another coach take over and maybe against what you believe Taylor should be doing? And then how do you give him guidance if he does get a little frustrated with that?
Well, I don't like it being on the sidelines. I see things that other coaches don't see. And of course, I'm going to see things because I'm his father and I was with him from the beginning. But having said that, there's a couple of times a year where he's over at Carson training and I go over and see him and talk to him. We talk about his matches, what he could do a little bit better. And quite frankly, I sat on purpose right behind the coach where my knees are into the back of his seat, and I just talk out loud. Why isn't Taylor coming in to cut that floating ball off? Why isn't he hitting through the second return to serve? Why is he chipping the ball? So I make my views quite well known, and there's nothing these guys can do about it. And they all I know is it's working. They seem to, when I suggest something or talk out loud where they can hear it. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago at quarterfinals of the U.S. Open, he's playing Djokovic, and I noticed that he's playing right off the bat. He's playing 15 feet behind the baseline. And the coach is right in front of me. The agent's on my right. I said, as loud as I could say it, I said, Taylor has no chance in this match. He's playing too far behind the baseline. He has no chance to beat Djokovic playing this way. I said, in fact, he's going to get killed. He took his worst loss ever right there. I mean, I can see it. To me, it's 100%. It's not, I'm not guessing. And for these guys to try the wrong strategy, stuff like that, that drives me up the wall.
Oh, I get it. I get it. I just got a question in regards to how do you coach a quiet confidence in Taylor? I mean, we were just talking about it. He stays pretty calm and composed in his energy, and especially under pressure. How do you help him build that mental armor, Guy? Is it trained or is it just chosen for himself?
No, you develop that too. Everybody thinks, oh, he's talented, he's this, he's super special. You start at a very young age. I never made the mistakes like a lot of these parents do, where they want to play their kids up. I say find a tournament where your kid can win it. I don't care if you have to go to Hemet or some little town in Florida, wherever. Find a tournament you can win, and winning develops winning. And when you're winning, you get to play more matches. More matches mean you're going to develop more points. You're going to figure things out. So that's what I did. I always never moved him up, and always had good players for him to compete against, but also players that he could beat. So you're working on your game. You're working on seeing how long you can go before you lose that focus, till you get out of that zone like we talked about earlier.
You're absolutely right, because I would do the same thing. I saw so many people, as you and I both know, in San Diego, where they kept on having their kids play at a higher age, at a high age group, but they never were winning. And they said, well, because I'm playing in a higher age group. They don't know what it's like to develop a winning pattern, develop a winning. And winning builds confidence.
In the horse world, that's like somebody not staying at one level and doing well. They want to move up to the next level, and they only won a couple times, and now they're wondering why do I lose all the time? Well, because you've never gotten into the routine and got it consistent that you're doing well at the level you were at. And even the system pushes them on. Well, your kids won 3 times, you got to move up to the next level. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Maybe my kid's not ready to move up to that level. And they needed that time.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's where a good coach comes into play, is that a good coach knows the weaknesses and strengths of his players, knows when to move them up, when to put him in a tougher tournament where he's going to play. You just can't, like Ian was talking about, these parents, they just keep thinking if the kid's playing all these good players, these better players, that he's going to become that. But that's exactly wrong. They don't develop how to construct the points, how to win. And that's where a lot of these academies miss the boat. A lot of these kids come out of their academy after academy. I've seen it all my life. They hit the ball great, but they don't know how to win.
So going back to when you could see things that other coaches can't see, when was that moment that you went, okay, Taylor has it. He has the potential to go on to the next level? Was it a point? Was it a tournament? When was it that you said, okay, this kid's going to go? And I'm speaking from dad and coach. Was it a different moment, or was it the same moment?
No, I've been asked that many times. There was never really a defining moment that said, aha, this is it. But I would see little things over the years. He would win a sectional championship. He's getting better. He was beating some players that were a little older that maybe he shouldn't beat. He would figure out a way to beat these guys, and I would say, wow, that's a great quality. But I always tried to hold back, being his father, and not saying, oh, this kid's going to be great, even though in the back of my mind I thought, boy, he's doing a lot of the right things. He's doing a lot of the right things. But if there was one defining moment, it was when he became the number 1 junior in the world. He started practicing harder. I wanted him to push him through a point where he didn't think he could go through. In other words, go out there and practice harder than you thought was possible. Just try it once or twice. And after he won the U.S. Open Juniors, he was practicing hard, and he went to Carson, and he called me about a week after that and said, Dad, I understand what you're talking about. I worked harder this week than I ever thought I could work. I pushed through the mental thing, this boundary that I had. And right there, I said, Taylor, you're going to make it as a pro. Right there, that was the one time I really knew he was only 17. I really knew he was going to make it because, and sure enough, the very next week he went to $100,000 tournament, his first pro tournament, and he won it. And then the next week he played a 50,000. He won that one without losing a set. So I really, I felt great about it because I knew it. Once he said that, once he pushed himself and got through that mental barrier, I finally, at that stage, thought he was going to make it, even though he was already the number one junior in the world.
Something changed in him. I saw a guy after Wimbledon 2021, when he lost in the third round. It was kind of a turning point in his career because it seemed like that loss ignited a fire within him, and he wrote himself a letter after that. Do you remember that, what he did? And
it's really funny. It's funny. I just heard about that letter the last couple of days.
Yeah. So he wrote himself a letter saying he just was underperforming, underachieving. And he probably, that says a lot about his own character and pushing himself and really wanting him to step up and really do that, because a lot of people would just swallow in that and not do well, but he kept on wanting to do better and better. So I think that's an amazing story. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that and share that story at all?
Well, I think it came after he was carted in a wheelchair off of the court at the French. And then he had to get a meniscus operation. And I think it scared him. I think he thought that his career could be over. And he realized that, hey, I better, this is a small window that I have here. And I told him, I said, look, I had a meniscus tear. You're going to be okay. You're going to come back. And he went over to Wimbledon. He shouldn't have played. He lost the third round. And that's when the letter happened. But I don't know that much about the letter. I believe at an early age, you should put things on your bathroom mirror, your goals, short-term goals, medium goals, long-range goals. And a letter is probably the same kind of thing because you're talking to yourself and it's no BS anymore. You're telling yourself, hey, I got to get with this. I got to do better. I want to do better. And Peter's, even as a junior, everything he's done has been a very slow progression, He just started playing his best tennis in the last year.
For sure. His movement is a lot better.
Correct.
I mean, his conditioning is a lot better. I mean, one of my greatest experiences, Pete, was I was watching Guy coach Keegan Smith on his private court. Keegan played number 1 for UCLA, and kind of watching it. And he, Guy trusted me to step on that court for a minute and just show Keegan a little bit of technique in regards to his volleys. And I would talk about it and squeezing the bottom of the rack, whatever. And, you give me one of the best compliments I've ever received. I don't know if you remember that, but you said that.
I should. I didn't give you too many.
No, you didn't. But you definitely just said, listen, that was good. And Keegan really liked that and really stuck. So that was good. To get a compliment from Guy Fritz about teaching, that is huge. That is huge. And I've worked with a lot of the big.
Well, that's what Taylor used to always complain about, He would hit a good shot. And if he didn't get complicated, I didn't realize that for a while that he was looking for that, but I didn't want to be telling him, when he hits all those good forehands every time, hey, what a great forehand, what a great forehand. I just kind of expected it, I guess. But he made me aware of that a few years back.
Well, I think it's a balance, isn't it? You don't want to do too much because then they expect it, and you don't want to do it too few times because then they're going to stop looking for it.
Yeah, that's very well said. Very well put. You're exactly right.
Well, the U.S. Olympic hockey team, that movie, when that came on out, Hugh Brooks didn't pat them on the back until that last game saying, you guys will be champions tonight. This is what it is. He pushed them. And that movie, Rocky, you probably watched that one too many times because Rocky's coach really didn't, boast them up or anything like that, kept on pushing them. So my father was kind of like that too.
So you've seen the game evolve. in coaching, what part, mental or emotional, of the game still stays timeless?
Well, I would say what we talked about earlier. Emotionally, you can't get too high, or you don't want to get low. You got to keep an even keel. What happens when people feel pressure? They don't get enough oxygen to the brain. They panic, and they that's where they get upset, and you'll see it when two athletes are going at it at any level in any sport. Sometimes one breaks just a little bit before the other one, and I think it's that one that has that strong mind and strong belief is always the one that's going to come out on top most of the time.
Well, I watch a lot of Coach Prime. I don't know how familiar you are with him, but he talks about practicing like you play. What's your philosophy on practice versus play? Like when you're playing.
I do watch Sanders a lot. I think he's a great motivator, and he's he believes in that power of positive thinking. And one of the books I recommend is a book by Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. But no, I listen to a lot of his stuff, and he's very good, a great motivator, and I think that to be a good coach, you also have to be a good motivator.
And do you believe in the philosophy of practice like you play?
Absolutely. If you're not going out there and putting yourself under the same conditions that you're going to put yourself in a match, Robb knows this. We used to have money matches all the time. I would bet on Taylor against the top players in town, and always putting something on it, try to duplicate pressure. Even the drills that you do, the practice you do, you try to say, okay, you got to make 9 out of 10 of these serves, or we're going to do it again. And of course, Taylor wanted to get off that court, and so that made him concentrate. And if you're out there practicing and you're not concentrating, I don't care how long you practice. I don't care if it's 5-6 hours. You're not getting what you need out of it. It has to be, if you're an hour and a half of concentrated practice, I'll take that over 3 or 4 hours any day. You're just not gonna gain what you need to get if you're not fully engaged.
And you just reminded me of things that I teach my students. If you're having a bad day, don't get the horse out. Get a quality session in the next day to really hone in and be in that connection with yourself, be in the zone, like as we call it, for an hour is way better than trying to be miserable for 2.5 hours where you're not going to get into that state of mind.
That's a very, very good point you brought up right there. If you're having a bad day, sometimes, Taylor would have a growth spurt and he would lose a match really badly, and you have to just take that and say, hey, don't worry about it. A lot of times in practice, he's not feeling well. You got to back off sometimes. But one thing when you play or practice, you always have to find something, anything that you can tell them they did well at. I don't care if they played the worst match ever. If they hit 2 good volleys, you got to say, that volley was good today. You hit a couple of good volleys. Always try to end on a positive note. And a good coach knows when sometimes to back off a little bit, and sometimes you got to push yourself when you don't feel like playing.
And it's just same thing with the horse, where you have to say, hey, we're having a bad day, so let's find something that works and call it a day instead of keep on pushing that same thought that's not getting any better.
That was Guy Fritz, tennis coach, mindset architect, and father of a top 10 ATP player, dropping wisdom that doesn't just apply to tennis, but to every athlete chasing their edge. Whether you're guiding a horse over a jump or standing alone on a match point, the zone isn't luck. It's trained, it's earned, and it can be coached. From breathing through pressure to bouncing back from setbacks, Guy reminded us that the mind is the most important muscle we train. So if you're a rider, a coach, or someone pushing for that next level, take these tools and ride forward with clarity, focus, and intention. Thanks for listening to In the Zone with Ian Robb and Dancin Pete Rodda. Until next time, stay sharp, ride bold, and keep yourself in the zone.